Let's now switch over to another big story, and this is on the fake gold scam. And this is a story that has dominated the headlines. And today, of course, some of those who were arraigned in court have been released on bail, a story that you guys have covered. And first of all, I just want us to understand or just to admit whether we are staying true to the story or, again, the politicians are running away with it. We saw what played out yesterday, and that is a back and forth from the Ruto team and the Raila team response, back and forth. But can we ignore what they say as we tell the story and as it develops, Sarah?
No, we cannot ignore what they say, but unfortunately we should not get caught up in what they are saying. We should not lose the story. The story is that there's a con game. People are playing very bad games out here. The gold scam, as we have branded it, is a gold scam. Let's stick with the story. We can't ignore what the politicians are saying. But nevertheless, when you start saying that one group is blaming another one, another group is blaming that, that's not our story. That is what they're saying, and we shall cover it as a sidebar, as part of the, what would you call it? You know, the other stories that are happening in between the bigger story. But the bigger story is the gold scam. Who are the players? Who's been conned? And can we go deeper into what is the genesis of this gold scam? Let's just stick to the story. And then the other things are just, or the word is sideshows. The rest are just sideshows.
Well,
yeah.
Let me jump Eric Kidogo and just ask, and jump in wherever you can in terms of response, and ask Vincent, this issue, are we being divergent? As you've been following this story from the get-go for weeks now. And when Raila speaks, or Ruto or his people speak, how do you treat this as an investigations reporter, senior investigative reporter from Daily Nation following this story?
I'll say, first of all, much of the decision making is not done by us. But if I was the one making the decisions, whatever Raila says should be taken as a by the way. Because first of all, you cannot even prove whether whatever he's saying is true or not. Because at some point in this story, people actually started doubting whether the person who was allegedly conned was even actually a royal in the first place. Then for 2 days, it became silent. Then when Raila came back, I think he came back from Juba, the very last minute, actually, that was not the story we were intending to run, but we had a story related to the gold scam. But the very last minute, a story came from Kisii that Raila said he was actually in Dubai. There is no way of proving this. But because it is him who has said that, I think editors are most likely to go with whatever he has said for the sale value of it. Not because it will add any value to the story.
But as an investigator, they would still follow these leads. If he says he was a whistleblower, he went to Dubai, this is Raila I'm talking about. This is something as an investigator, whether as a reporter or even the investigative agencies, they would follow that. It's not something to ignore.
Yeah, but the big problem is, how do you prove between the time Raila says this at a rally in Kisii, 2 hours before press time, that he was actually in Dubai, or if he met the ruler? At what point do you prove that, okay, actually he was there or he was not there before you run the story? Eric is an editor downstairs here. I think he should tell us how...
Is he the one who decided on changing
how they decide this? Because at some point, I kind of think we are losing it.
Right.
But this is how I look at this story, Mark. Because this is a very complex matter, and it involves actually international ring of criminals. And I think this is a story that you don't need 1 or 2 days to hack. You need a Juka to take like 6 months or even 1 year just to sit down and do this story.
But he has to tell the story on
exactly, a daily basis. For now, we can just tell the story the way it is. But for the media actually to help is that he needs to take time, or anybody who wants to get to the bottom of this matter and come up with a story needs to take time. That will even take up to even 1 year. Then you come up with a good story that will answer all these questions. But as it is right now, you know, it's very difficult for us because we are just trying to do a catch-up game because so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, and you need time to verify some of this information, and you can't have that, like he's saying, you might not have that time to do that. But for him, I'm expecting that in 6 months, we should be coming up with a very good story that actually goes down and bring out all these issues, because it's not something that you can do within a week. You need time.
He threw it to you as an editor because as a reporter, he's faced with some limitations. would you give him 6 months and put him off desk?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and
that is
that
is the only way. If you look at some of these stories, actually, the scandals of such nature, you will realize that reporters who do those stories, they take time. Actually, sometimes even 1 year for them just to come up with a very good story, a solid story that will tell you how these things are done. Because it involves so many organizations. Like you look at the stories that have been told, you'll see the police are involved, politicians are involved, even businessmen are involved. Because you cannot do a transaction of 300 million mark without involving different agencies, including law firms, including banks. You see, and this is not something that you can just get out within a week or within a day. So, as much as we are also going to update the public about what is happening, but I think someone somewhere actually needs to take time and go deep and bring out all these issues, who are involved, how is it done, so that we're able to have a solid story. A solid story cannot be done within a day.
Okay, I don't know if you answered Vincent's question to his contentment, but let me throw it first to Seth and the challenges we face in broadcast. He's just told you how it played out, and before press, they had to actually change the focus and how they were looking at the story and go with the Raila version. And from your point of view, Raila, and I mean, it's something, if you have that bite from Kisii and you don't carry it in your story because you have a different version, what would happen with your editor, our editor here? We have Moraya Karaoke, we have Emmanuel Juma. What would play out?
I think as NTV, we've done well in terms of ever since we started covering the fake gold scam, in terms of highlighting both the political angle and also now the real issue, which is now the stories we've been doing, the perpetrators or the accused persons we've been covering in our day-to-day news bulletins. But I agree that priority should be on the issues, on the scandal itself. But also right of reply for the ODM leader. Also bearing in mind that, ever since this issue went political, we've had one side of the political divide, each and every time mentioning Raila's name. And so I think also it would be fair enough to, give Raila a chance to reply, but also be dominant on the issue, which is now the scam itself. And fair enough, I think, as NTV and Achuka, and I believe the entire editorial, we've really, tried to, unearth the scam itself.
Okay, you've done a good job in defending. Yes, first, Sarah, yes, go ahead.
Because in my opinion, the story is really trying to get muddied at every point of the way. And you tend to see that the political factions are trying to make, they're trying to use this story for their own benefit. Yes. So it's unfortunate that this gold scam story came about and the people who are being mentioned in it, CS for Interior, Raila goes to Dubai and comes back. I mean, these are people that we listen to every single day. Yes. They're people that we cover. It's unfortunate that they came into this gold scam story. So now the two factions, that is Tanga Tanga and Kieleweke, all of a sudden, people from both sides realize, oops, now we can jump on this gold scam story and fix these guys. So they bring in all these political things to it, but the story is not about their political things. Right. The story is about a gold scam. So as much as we need to cover the political shenanigans that they keep accusing each other of, still the story is the gold scam. Let's do the gold scam story and then bring in all these other and then to add into everything else, now this faction is saying this and this faction is trying to use this story to do this. Then we build a whole story. Then we give a wholesome story without losing one side of the story or the other. Right.
Yeah. Vincent, as you're listening to their responses, are you content with the explanation as to why we're taking those angles?
I actually don't think that politicians just got into the story and started to muddy each other. We should first of all get to the origin of this story before politicians came in. I think roughly about 2 weeks ago, on a Friday, there was a rumor that some guys had used Matiang'i's name to con some fellow gold. Then by Monday, it had metamorphosized to actually people use Matiang'i's name. It's actually now a true story. And one name now came up, which was, I think, Zahir's name. But on the same day, Standard broke the story on the front page. Then I think the next day, People Daily brought in Wetangula's name. Up to that point, as a nation, I think you are still cautious on whether to bring in politicians or not. Then after a whole week, on a Saturday afternoon, an audio leaked. That's how Wetangula's name now came in, that he was allegedly involved in the scam.
Yes.
Apparently, Wetangula was flying out of the country on that day to Hong Kong, and Raila was not in. So naturally, when Raila came, because of course, probably he wanted to, because as much as he's not with Wetangula politically anymore, it is in his interest to appear to be defending Wetangula. So when he took it up, then guys from this other end of Tanga guys took it up now as a political squabble that needed to be solved.
Yes.
Then everybody lost their soul at that point. So for the last 1 week, we've been running stories about, I don't know, Ruto is in a church somewhere. We're actually expecting him to talk about it. And he plays the gallery so well, and we pick it up, it becomes front page story.
Yes.
Then the next day, Raila's team calls a press conference, then they respond. You know, up to now, we have actually forgotten that the DPP last Friday issued a statement, and he directed the IG to expedite investigation of that matter and give him a report actually by Saturday,
yes,
which was last Saturday. We haven't seen the DPP talk about it. No one is questioning really. And if you asked me, 2 months ago, we had the Kimwarer and Arodam scandal, which were like big news for 3 weeks. Then politicians came in, and then the issue just became political and it died. The DCI, I think, has forgotten about it right now.
Yes.
And is almost forgetting about the gold. And the people he said that are supposed to be questioned, which I find it very weird, that the DCI can say on TV or on a newspaper, I'm going to summon someone, and actually in the real sense, he hasn't summoned that guy. People are walking on the street. No one has issued a statement, and actually the people who we think are major players in this scandal have been for the past 1 week being given, I think, front page stories, and also on TV, talking about how much wealth they have and actually distorting the story.
Yes.
I saw the Standard last Sunday ran a completely one-sided story from Zahir, which they claimed was from an exclusive interview. Yeah, yes. Where he said that gold was, I think, 20 billion or 30 billion. He wasn't questioned. It ran like that. Then he actually even said he's worth 2 billion. He has, I think, 2 helicopters. A lot of hogwash, really, if you ask me.
Right.
Yeah.
But Mark, looking based on what Achuka is saying and what we read in the media, you'll get an impression that actually so far the media actually has not gotten the story. What is the story actually about the gold? Because this is not the first fake gold story actually you're having. This gold story has been there, only that probably this time around maybe a prominent person was conned, and that's why actually it blew off. But these gold stories have been there. So it means that media is still playing a catch-up to find out actually what is the real story behind these gold stories. And I believe that if given enough time, maybe this story will be told one day.
Right. And is it wrong?
I'm sure it will die. give it 3 days.
That's what I'm saying.
So from now.
That's what I'm saying. It will die because right now we are following what politicians are doing and what politicians are saying. But if we as journalists now go down and do our work and dig deep so that we are able to get these facts and bring them out, a story cannot die. But if we follow the narrative, like Mark is saying, the narrative that has been constructed by the politicians, the story will die. But if we move away from what politicians are saying and do our work as journalists, the story will not die.
It's very shocking to hear it from the investigative reporter. And this is him just admitting reality on how things play out. You've mentioned the Aror saga, Dam saga. The politicians come and they run away with the story, and we tend to forget.